Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck,
Spiritual as fuck.
where spirituality meets the real world. I'm Liz Volpe, social entrepreneur, psychic medium, teacher, and founder of the Intuition Academy. I am passionate about inspiring people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Dianne Driscoll, a coach, facilitator, keynote speaker, and self-directed healing practitioner. I am fascinated with all things science, spirituality, and self-leadership, and love the journey of incorporating my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We share real and raw spiritual stories, give you a safe space to challenge what's normal, and have some serious fun along the way. If the podcast isn't enough, we invite you to our monthly online events and workshops with some of the world's best spiritual teachers.
Plus, join our Spiritual Renegades community and get bonus episodes and lots of exclusive content. Everything you need to be spiritual as fuck.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the second episode of 2025. Can you believe it? And of course, episode 54 already. Dianne and I were just having a little bit of a laugh of, recording 54 hours of episodes, weren't we, Dianne?
Of us rambling on and then having the privilege of a lot of very intelligent and experienced guests to join us as well, but mostly Liz and I rabbiting on.
And today it's going to be the two of us, and we've decided to delve into the topic of signs and synchronicities from the other side. I know that this is kind of one of your favorite topics. We always get so many beautiful emails and beautiful messages through socials, sharing stories of receiving beautiful validation and proof from our loved ones on the other side. So we thought we'd delve in and kind of explore this subject a bit more. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? Because I feel like whether you are really spiritual as fuck or not, you're kind of always a little bit curious, and you do want to believe that our loved ones who have crossed over can give us messages and are still there. So I feel like it's a nice topic to touch on, regardless of where you're at on your spiritual journey. And now I know that obviously you've predominantly been spiritual, Dianne, but do you feel like there's been a point of your life where you received a bit of validation, or you just kind of had that belief? Like, what do you remember?
Yeah, I think growing up in Ireland, there's, a lot of sort of pagan, things that are handed down to us. So we grow up with so much stuff that it's like, if you get goosebumps, it's somebody walking over your grave, as an example.
I remember that one.
Yeah, it's like, or you see robins there, they're always a sign of someone trying to connect in the afterlife. There's so many things in Ireland that we just grow up with that you almost expect that you're going to have some sort of sign or some sort of, even if you don't believe it in yourself, you will be surrounded by people who will mention things that they have had connections, they've had a sign, they've had something from the other side. So I think I'm lucky that I always had a degree of that connection of believing in something bigger than myself.
It's so true. I mean, I even remember growing up and you'd hear a story in the hairdressers. Oh, you won't believe this. Mabel, who passed away, this happened. And you'll actually then go and tell like at least 5 of your friends that story from the hairdresser. It's I feel like these type of stories have always existed, and you'll listen and you're like, whoa, yeah, wow. I mean, I used to really believe anyway, or I was kind of always used to hope, wow, I hope those type of things happen to me. Yes. Did you?
Yeah, I'm still like that, because I think you have a lot more in tune with the other side than I do. So I'm often thinking to myself that, even those times where, you're hoping for a sign or something from a loved one, and you're like, praying to them, always begging them, please give me a sign, give me a sign. And then you're hanging on waiting for it. But those kind of the signs that come out of the blue, or those connections that come out of the blue, the ones that kind of surprise and delight us, rather than the ones that we're asking for and we're hanging on waiting for. I just think they're also that little bit more magical because we're not expecting them.
It's an interesting one, that, isn't it? Because you ask for a sign, and I still feel like that sign will probably still come, but most of the time your awareness is not there and you will miss the sign. Would you agree? Or we might be too particular and we're like, if you're around, show me this exact thing. And yes, those magical moments definitely happen where, someone will see that robin or whatever that they've had in their mind. But unfortunately, spirit will show themselves in any way they can. It can be through that beautiful song that suddenly plays, or that number plate via, angel numbers. And because we're so stuck on getting the sign in a particular way, we miss it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when we are overly prescriptive, there's no doubt about it. We can still ask for signs and then be surprised that that they do appear. But I think the more prescriptive we're going to be, then we narrow our focus and we're not as open to receiving messages in other ways. And it is, if you're, I know for me, feathers, as an example, is something that I never resonated with feathers. People would talk about, oh, seeing a feather and it was an angel or a loved one. And I would see feathers all over the place, but I never had that association until I moved into my house in Ireland. And all of a sudden there was this feather that just kind of it was in the same position every single day that I would go out for my whatever grounding and meditation in the morning, or, bringing the dog out for, for a little while in the afternoon. But this one feather, and then I started to play with it to just say, okay, is there a meaning? Is there a sign? Now, it's not that I ever found out what the sign was, but it was almost like this game of testing to say, will you be here tomorrow? Will you still be in the same place? It felt like there was some sort of spiritual connection. And again, something I never thought I would do, which was bring a feather into the house. But I ended up thinking, oh no, there's some sort of little connection or meaning in that. I'm going to bring that into the house, and it's in the middle of my kind of altar or connection, my little spiritual spot in the house. It's one of the other paraphernalia things that I have in there. So feathers now have more meaning, and I see them way more in connection with people as well. And before, I would have been totally closed off to that. I just didn't associate that as a spiritual thing or as a connection from the other side.
Oh, I've got so many stories buzzing around in my head now when you
Oh.
open up this subject. I mean, and a lot of the people that are in our Renegade group know that technology has been speaking to me for like the last half of the year, wasn't it, last year?
Oh.
And there's just like getting constant random things happen with my laptop and with technology generally, that it became like laughable for me. And I feel like if it had happened a year before, it would have really spooked me out.
Yes.
But maybe at that point in my spiritual journey, I could just actually go like, okay, who is this? Who's doing this? Anywhere from, a toilet trip down the hall, walking back to this sudden music blaring out of my laptop, and me literally jumping out of my skin like, holy shit, I knew no one else was in the house. To kind of walking in and just checking like around my room, like, is anybody here? Oh my goodness. To things happening via Zoom. I mean, what other stories? What other things have happened with my laptop?
No, for me, because I like being on the other side of the experience for this, like having emojis just flood your screen for no reason.
Siri start to talk.
Yeah. And it's always been any of the ones that I've witnessed that have happened to you anyway. They've always been when you've just said something profound. It's almost like the universe is coming in to validate something that has happened. And what's so funny, because I know I haven't told you this, but in the lead up to Christmas, I don't think she'd mind me saying this, but Ali McKelvey, who is our human design, official human design specialist on our Renegades, and who's been on the show before. So I was catching up with Ali. We were having a lovely, big, deep and meaningful and, solving the problems of the universe. And Ali said something really profound. And again, the whole emojis thing just lit up on the screen. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why does this happen to me? Why does it only happen? It's like Liz and now Ali. It's like everybody's getting these emoji floods and, signs from the universe. But again, I just found it. So then I proceeded to tell her what was happening with you. But it is, to me, that is one of the freakiest, kind of very modern. So to me, I'm kind of thinking, okay, is that someone that's very young, modern, cool, that's now interjecting themselves through technology to have things flood up on the screen? But every single time it's been for something profound. It's almost like validating a decision that someone's thinking of making, or something that's said that needs to be kind of underlined and exclamation marked at the end of it. Like, that's fascinating that it's on your computer screen, that it's out of the blue.
Oh, it is. I mean, I feel like it feels more spirit guidey when you get like, so when you've said something profound and you get like, da-da, yes, we agree. But the spirit that was playing around with me for a few months last year was completely different. Like I had the cheekiest energy. You know, the doorbell would ring when our doorbell does not ring. It doesn't bloody work.
Yes.
The music
Yeah.
would play. The funniest, I know I've shared this with you already, was that I was updating my website and I was looking for an image of myself to actually put on there. And I was just didn't have very much time. So I just opened up, actually, I think it was one of our episodes, and I
Yeah.
just did a screenshot of me on an episode. And I went to upload it. And when I uploaded it, I could see like this box over half of my body. And I leaned in there, and in a tiny box, it said the words, "I dislike this." And the funniest thing was, I picked the worst photograph ever to upload, and I did bloody dislike it. And I literally was like, I shut everything down. I reopened it. I looked at the screenshot I'd taken. I went back to the original video. Nowhere, like physically impossible for this
Oh my
little
God.
box that had a black outline, a white background, and even a font. I mean, I'm going to have to share this for our listeners, right? Even a font that
Yes.
I've never even seen the bloody font. So anyway, yeah, hilarious. So I was like, this feels like one of my grandmas, my mum's mum, who was kind of like would always just say what what she thought. You know, she was one of those grandmas that if my mum
Yes.
had a haircut, she would come in and go, "Oh, I don't like your hair."
Yes. Yeah. We all have one of those in the family, I think.
And I'm like, I think that's you, Nana, isn't it? Margaret, yeah, I did. Okay, you're telling me not to use that photograph. It is pretty bad. I'll swap it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
But
like this funny things.
how funny is that? Just when you're saying about, like we might get that sign or synchronicity, and we might not always know in the moment who it's from.
Hmm.
And I think it's so important that when we have these things, like I think sometimes we'll notice it'll be like, oh, I've seen an angel number, or I've something kind of quirky or out of the ordinary has happened, or I found the feather or a penny, whatever it might be. And then we'll take that on face value, but we don't necessarily stop and think, well, who might be sending that? Where might it be
Hmm.
coming from? What was I doing immediately beforehand that is it validating something? Is it letting me know someone's thinking about me? Is it was I just about to make a decision and maybe this is something that's confirming whatever I was hoping to do? But it's I do you find, well, you probably do because your spiritual practice has evolved so much over the years. What do you do in the moment when you have something like that happen? And like, I know when I say something like that, that's a broad amount of things. But in general, if you see an angel number, if you see a feather or whatever the signs might be for you, what do you do in that moment?
Yeah, I feel like the key is not to overthink, because you don't want to go into your rational thinking mind and start to like put together a
Yes.
story.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a really quick spot check. How do I feel? It's more around the feeling, being a clairsentient anyway. Like, who does this feel like? And some 90% of the time, I don't necessarily get a name or, oh, that's my Nana Margaret. It might just be that I just know that this is a message from someone, and it could be a guide, it could be someone. And I will allow potentially another bit of validation to come if it is from a person. So it might be like, okay, I might be curious. I don't get a feeling on who this is from, but can you tell me? Like, give me another
Yeah.
sign and make it really clear so I know it's you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really good. It's just interesting because I know sometimes for me, and this happened a lot lately, that my mum's partner who passed away, who we've spoken about, David the Medium, had brought through a message from him. But like out of all of the family members, I probably knew him least because I lived in Australia, and my mum, my family, Connie, all lived in Ireland. But I feel like I have such a strong presence. He will just, like, I could be driving in the car and I just feel him. It's like I just feel, oh, you're sitting in the car beside me. And it's often what it has been to do with relationships. So either when my marriage was breaking down or more recently entering into a new relationship, it's like he is around me in some way to do with relationships. And I don't always know what that is, but I will stop and think, oh, what was I thinking about at that point in time? And again, like, you try not to over analyze it, but that's usually where my brain goes to. But it is a feeling. Like I get such a sense, I can feel it, and I know instantly that that's who it is, which is a
Yeah.
lovely, comforting thing to feel. And even I guess for me, the extra element of wow, of all the people you could, appear to or send a message to, I'm the person that you've chosen, and I'm the one in the family that probably had the least connection with you. It just, it's a very, very special thing for me.
And this is where the trust comes in. You know, the divine timing, the
Yeah.
coincidences, the synchronicities, the signs. You don't have to make the people around you believe what happened, right? You get that really quick, beautiful feeling when that thing happens, and you've just got to take that with you on your
Yeah.
journey
Yeah.
without feeling the
Absolutely.
need to persuade people or, tell people these amazing stories. And obviously, it's nice to share it with your spiritual friends and tribe anyway. But yeah, I think that it's just a case of just actually feeling gratitude and feeling the love in those type of signs and synchronicities.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think gratitude and just again that being open to it, just yeah, it's almost like in that moment your vibration gets raised that little bit
Yeah.
more that you just but allow it to happen. Like even what you were saying about not going into your, your thinking brain or overanalyzing it. It's like, allow yourself to be flooded with whatever the message is. And even if it's not a logical message. It may just be a feeling. It may just be for that moment your vibration needed to be heightened or you needed to be lifted up. You needed to be raised up. And I just think sitting in that, whatever it is. So if you see the sign, whatever that is for you, just hold on to it in that moment, whatever the feeling that is that arises for you or whatever vibrational state that it seems to elevate for you.
Yeah. And I feel like spirit works within just passing through hope and strength most of the time for us. So giving those little signposts, everything is going to be okay right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just some signs are clearer than others, and some you could pass off as a coincidence, and some are just it's just impossible to be a coincidence as well.
Yeah.
One thing that happened to me last year was that myself, my son, and daughter were sat at the table eating breakfast. And at that particular point, we were going through a really big challenge. I was. And we weren't talking about that. We were just having breakfast right before school. It's just like any other day. And a book from directly in front of us all flew off the bookshelf and landed on the floor. And I kind of like looked at the kids like, did you see that? We were like, what the hell? Oh my God. I was walking past, nobody went past it. It was not balanced on the edge. It was a big bookshelf, like cannot come off. The funny thing being, though, that the book that dropped on the floor, the subject and the topic of the book was about the challenge I was actually personally going through. And I hadn't even seen that book before. I've never read it. I don't know who put that on my bookshelf. I've got
Oh,
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, by the way,
yeah.
but I would not buy that book. So to this day, I've always been like, what the hell? And I obviously started to read the book after it. But it was just such a funny one to experience with the kids. Because, I do drop in things like, oh, it's a sign, oh, look, there's the bird. There's
Yeah.
Nana Margaret's here. And they do say things like that now too. But when they're also seeing things like that, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm thinking, oh, shit, I hope Isla, you don't go and tell your teacher that today.
With your news for school, it's like, what did you do over the holidays?
Yes.
Oh gosh, it is. It's so funny when you were saying before that as well about how when we have the signs and synchronicities and things that we see and we sometimes want to tell people, but not everybody's going to believe you. Not everybody's going to subscribe to what it is that you've seen, what you've experienced. It is for our listeners, I just think don't let any of that dim your experience, because if someone is looking at you like you've got two heads because you've had a series of synchronicities occur, or a series of signs that has occurred, or like I know that on one of our channel events, we had one of our members who had shared that feeling the weight of someone sitting on the bed. And
Yes.
it's like, okay, that's the kind of thing that you might not be able to tell to everyone, because if you tell that to just anyone, they could think, oh my God, you're absolutely bonkers, or they may try to invalidate that. So when you do have these experiences, just be, a little bit mindful about who you share them with. And if you share it with someone who is a non-believer, doesn't believe, they think it's all hocus pocus or woo-woo, it's don't let that dim your outlook on what you're receiving. It's just, yeah, that's their journey. That's what their beliefs are. But for you, it's like, if you were lucky enough to have that little bit of magic in your life, hold on to it. Hold on to it. You're like, we all have it available to us, but not everybody is open to seeing and, I guess responding to and accepting what those signs and synchronicities are that we experience.
And I don't know about you, but I've always kept books with those in. So I might not write in the book for like a year and a half, but if any crazy thing happens to me, I'll grab that book and write the date and, in 3 or 4 lines, just do an overview of what's happened. And it's so nice. Every so often I'll pull it out and look through over the years of like these amazing things. I'm like, wow, I forgot about that. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You see,
I'm
going to say this again because this comes up so often. So Liz, anyone who's listening to the podcast for a while will know Liz is fantastic to journal things like this. I journal in the moment more from a thought processing or even automatic writing standpoint. I don't actually do the documentation of things that happen. And it's so funny because if you had been a fly on the wall listener, before we started this, I'm saying Liz always has all of these amazing stories. And I'm thinking, I don't catalog anything. I don't write them down when they happen. So I don't have this kind of and it is a wonderful practice. I'm always thinking to myself when you say these things, is that, I must start documenting. Here's some of the things that, that have occurred. And it's the reason that I'm bringing this up at the moment as well is that on my group coaching program, The Great Experiment, last night we did a session and so many people had brought up about how they're starting to now write down. That is never a piece of advice that I have given. They've taken it from the podcast. So it's definitely from you.
They've
started to write down some of these major signs and synchronicities and things that's coming up for them. And I'm thinking, here I am yet again. It's like the universe is sending me this sign. Dianne, just start documenting, start writing down, put some notes in your phone even of things that are occurring. And I still haven't gotten into that practice. But I do think that for anybody who is that way inclined, it is a brilliant thing to do because, as you say, you can go back and you can look at it. You might not know what the meaning of it was at that point in time. But if you look back at it a week later or a month later, it's like, oh, that might have been a message that's coming through from your grandmother. That might have been, I was about to go into a major upheaval in my life and it was a sign towards that. Like there's all sorts of things that, with a little bit of hindsight or a little bit of reflection, that it's a really good thing to do. So yes, Liz, one day I will pick up start the process.
I might buy you a book, Dianne. I've always kind of thought, one day if I ever write a book, I want to be able to remember these stories. And I've got the worst memory ever. So I'd like just these little snippets of proof, my own proof. Not only is good to document, to be able to share stories, but it's a reminder when you're going through a challenge that actually there is more to the world than these 3D issues that I'm suffering through at the moment.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's so lovely. Yeah, beautiful.
I know that a theme also that happened through 2024 for me was divine timing with spirit.
Yes.
We all go through divine timing, whether it be meeting that person at the right time or doors opening or doors closing. But I started to get these incredible bits of divine timing working with spirit as a medium, actually. One particular example of this is that really early last year, my mum had sent me a photograph on behalf of one of her friends. And she said, please, when you have time, can you just do a reading? I'm going to give you a photograph and this is connected to one of her best friends. All right. So I kind of sat with that photograph and it's always hard, isn't it? When someone, gives you a reading to do.
Yes.
You feel like, shit, I need to get it done. So, I was constantly almost like trying to find time to do this reading for my mum's friend. And I just never could seem to get the time. And then on the occasions when I sat down, I'd literally look at the lady or the girl in the photograph and I could not get anything. Like it was like a blank head. So I'd have to put it away. So for months and months and months, my mum would call and go, have you done that reading yet for so and so? And I'd be like,
God.
oh shit, mum, I'm so sorry. I'm not making excuses, but I promise I'll get round to it. And in the end, I had to say to my mum, look, mum, I'm sorry. Please don't ask me. Like, I'll do it. I just, it hasn't felt right. Anyway, so months and months and months went by. One morning I woke up and it was like I'd been given a mission. I have to do that reading today. I just almost just got pulled out of bed, pulled into my office. The photograph was in front of me before I know it. And, the channeling is happening really, really fast. I got a very strong connection with this beautiful girl. And when I get that type of a connection, it's almost like stepping inside a soul. Like you feel like the person, you're almost experiencing memories and gorgeous connections and relationships they have. And what came through was this incredible relationship between the lady that had passed over and my mum's friend, and really specific messages. So anyway, I'm quickly typing it up because she's in England, obviously different time zone. I type it as much as I can off and send the email and feel this really beautiful sense of relief, but knowledge of the right timing when I sent it off. It just felt right. Now, being that type of reading when it's a friend, you kind of also, it always follows with a sense of nervousness on I actually hope that this resonates, right? Have I just made all that up? Always happens to me. The imposter syndrome of maybe not being a medium after doing thousands of readings always pops in. I wonder if this isn't even going to mean anything. Anyway, it turns out that the lady, my mum's friend, she got out of bed that day. She opened her email and she got the email on what turned out to be the lady in the photograph's birthday. So basically, I got the nudge from that beautiful lady on the other side that morning to say, today is the day that you need to show my appreciation.
Oh, wow.
From the other side and pass on the message. And I hope that kind of made sense because I don't want to name names. Obviously, sharing someone else's story.
And I think just even the fact that you were blocked, it was like that the spirit of the spirit of that person was waiting for that date, and then everything, like the fact to wake up to that is.
Yeah, to receive that message on her birthday, absolutely amazing. And also really strong validation that even if that reading could have come months before, and there might have been lots of great things that were correct in the reading, and she might have gone yep. But it was almost like an extra layer of, holy shit, that's crazy. Yes, how could I get this on her birthday? That's crazy after all of these months.
It's like the signier sign.
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, here's the validation on top of the validation. That is mind-blowing because I mean, just even as you're telling the story there, that sense of, just, on behalf of your mum, I'm sure she was also feeling, oh my God, she hasn't done this yet. I hope they don't ask me about it, all of that. And to think that all of it was being divinely orchestrated, divine timing to deliver the message to the person on such an important date as a birthday, that's oh my God! It just
my message around this
is so important.
Absolutely, that is the message. Whether or not you ever go to get a reading and you have to wait for it, or you ask for a sign and you might have to wait for it. You will get the sign at the right time, and divine intervention is just such a huge thing. And the timing of your signs tend to have sometimes, a big reason behind them as well on the signs. So yeah.
Oh my God. It's funny because you've sparked me, like when you said divine timing. So I guess that wasn't something that I had necessarily thought about, under the umbrella of the conversation that we were going to have today about, signs and synchronicities from the other side. But when you said divine timing being kind of a theme going through, that I have felt has been one of the massive themes for me of this year. Even obviously anybody who's spiritually inclined, there's a lot of divine timing involved in the things that happen to us. But definitely in the last while, and this is not something I was planning to talk about. So,
oh, I'm interested now. Make sure you keep sharing.
I'll probably even get a bit tongue-tied because it's something that I haven't spoken about yet, and definitely not kind of publicly. But so divine timing for me has come up massively in the last little while. So in terms of a relationship. So a a new relationship that I am in. Well, it's not so new anymore, but this is a person that I met when I was 17. And instantly, now this is going to sound ridiculous, and of course, everybody's going to think, or any of my friends probably think, oh yeah, she was crazy about this guy, whatever. But I knew instantly the moment I saw this person, I thought there was a soul connection. And now, bearing in mind, in my teenage years, I was very spiritual, but I felt there was absolutely like there is some sort of former life connection. I have met you before. I know you from a former life, and it's not that I knew this person for a very long time. It's not like he was in my life for years or anything, but over 30 years later, this person came back into my life and, out of the blue, totally now happens to live 15 minutes away from my home in Ireland. It's like, this relationship has sprung up out of the blue. So divine timing of something that there is nobody who could have told me all of my life that I didn't know that there was a soul connection the instant that I saw that person at whatever 17. And then knowing that that same connection was there at whatever 30 plus years later. God, I'm aging myself as I say this. But that divine timing of, okay, like if we had met up any other time, obviously having been married for so long, then that wouldn't, nothing would have eventuated out of that. And the amount of divine timing and synchronicities that have occurred within that relationship. And I mentioned my mum's partner, Connie, who has passed, and he comes up all the time in relation to that. He came up all the time through my separation, through my marriage. And then disappeared and has come up all again now through this relationship as well. Because, sorry, I'm really sharing here now, but for anybody who has been married for a long time, you go into a new relationship, oh my God, it's like, you're just so exposed. You just feel like you're, Bambi learning to walk. It's just everything just feels so kind of scary, so kind of new, kind of, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here. But that energy of having Connie constantly around me, like kind of nudging me along and saying, it's okay, you can do this, this is a good thing. And it's just the divine timing, the synchronicities are off the charts in terms of this relationship. And you just think, oh my God, how freaking amazing is that? Like from 17 to 30 plus years later, and now 15 minutes over the road, it blows my mind. I keep thinking, so, okay, this is just bizarre. This is so bizarre.
Oh, I love divine timing stuff. And those are the type of things you need to write down. All those like crazy timings where you're like, oh my God. And even like the whole divine intervention piece as well. When a spirit wants to let you know or give you a message, they will make it happen. And just recently over Christmas, my mum and family have been out from England, which has just been so special because I haven't had them here for 8 years. So, the amount of excitement building up to this point, and my mum and I will often sit down and talk about loved ones that have passed over and family members. And while she was here, I just opened my garage, and in front of me, I have no idea how this had possibly come from, was just a tiny scrap of note, actually written from my Auntie Helen, who passed away like 8 years ago. It was in front of me on a shelf. But I was like,
she was there with you.
Oh my God, Mum, Auntie Helen must be here. Look, where the hell has this note come from? And it was just a note like thinking of you.
Oh my God.
Like, and it just, again, it's the magic that you feel when you get something like that, because I don't even now think of like, where's it come from? I'm just like, oh, look, Auntie Helen's here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Spirit will let you know, if you find those notes, if that crazy timing happens. We've spoken about dreams before. If you get that type of visitation, just take it. Just have it, pull it in as a gift, because it is a gift, and share a thank you when you receive those type of things. And don't overthink it. Just enjoy it, because the breadcrumbs are there and you can follow them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think too that for anyone, and this is probably front of mind because we, just before Christmas had our channel event with Sean Collins, just around that, when you have lost someone and that grief is recent and raw and new, and sometimes we're either really wanting more of a connection, or sometimes we might be really closed off to, oh, almost can't cope with something that's coming through. But in that time, it feels to me, and I would love if I could remember how Sean explains it, but just immediately afterwards, just allowing yourself to be open to experiencing, like they are around you. So just allow yourself to be open to experience what it is that's coming through for you. And knowing that is, yeah, they're there for you. They're supporting you through your grief at that point in time as well. I just think, like, I guess, fortunate that I haven't had a lot of people close to me pass pass away, but right now I'm supporting someone through both parents who have passed away recently. And the amount of signs and synchronicities, and I will say this is a, typical Irish male who is not open to any of these things, or at surface level isn't, but the amount of synchronicities that are coming through, the amount of signs that are coming that that I know that definitely he knows are coming from his parents are just beautiful. It's like, oh my God, how lovely to know, number one, your parents are sending you these messages, but also on top of that, not only are your parents sending it, you're actually recognizing them, you're seeing them, and you don't give a shit what anybody else is saying. You know that this is, you're being looked after, they're still around. And to the point where I have even had a lot of things like that happen to me recently in relationships, because I'm, I guess, there for that person going through, that some of their signs and synchronicities are showing up in my world as well. So then I know who these, that it is, you're kind of surrounded in that circle. But it's just, if you're someone who is going through grief, like, and it's raw and it's real for you right now, maybe even listen back to the both episodes with Sean, particularly just about how to allow that connection. I just feel he has some lovely, lovely advice about how you can open yourself up to those connections more and more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, isn't it just such a magical kind of thing to talk about anyway? The fact that even though grief is so hard and we have to lose people, that there is still an opportunity to connect. And I feel like a lot of people, they have to lose someone to start to believe. And I've seen evidence of
Yes.
that before, that they've been like, nah, that's a load of crap. Yet
Yeah.
they'll lose someone and they'll start to see that sign over and over and over again that they associate with the person crossed over, and suddenly it's opened that door spiritually that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but this is, you probably can't do, not everyone can do this with their family, but me and my mum have actually had the conversation, because we're big believers, obviously. When you pass over, can we choose a bird together that we both
Oh,
would recognize as as a sign
yeah,
from
the
each other?
sign.
So we've actually chosen a bird. So if when my mum goes or I go, that's the bird that will come back as, hopefully.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Like, I like my family, I don't know. I feel like my sisters and I are all spiritually maturing, let's put it that way, like all in our own ways, but we're all quite spiritual. And my niece, who's all of us have a lot of spiritual conversations. Then I feel for my poor mother, who has to put up with all of us who are talking all this
Yes.
spiritual mumbo jumbo. But I do think that is a lovely thing to be able to do. Like, if you can do that with a friend or a family member, especially, I think if you can't do it to someone, that if you have someone in your life that is, maybe they're going through terminal illness, or they're needing that sense of hope as well, to be able to talk about it. That gives you a way of, okay, let's have this agreement. Let's, almost like have a little bit of fun with it, have a little bit of an experiment with it. It's like, okay, what are we going to pick? Like, maybe it is a bright yellow car, maybe it is a certain type of bird, whatever it might be. But I think that if we could all have those sorts of conversations, it would just mean that transition through death would be so much more easier, and a lot more, yeah, give a lot more hope to people as well.
Yeah, I want to open up at this point, because I'm sure that there's going to be so many listeners that are hearing our stories, and it's prompting their own experiences and memories of signs and synchronicities.
Yes.
We would so love to hear them. Whether or not you follow us on Instagram, which is just at spiritual.a.f, or you've got our email, or you can just jump onto the website. Like, share your stories, please, because it literally drives us. And I know that Dianne loves to hear them just as much as I do.
Yes, absolutely.
So it would be really cool, and we can even potentially share some of your stories too if you are willing. So I feel like,
yeah, and we'll always ask for your permission. Always ask for your permission before we post anything. But we do, like, the amount that we get through, the amount of people who share stories with us and send us a message or write it in a comment, like, it is huge for us. And that just, yeah. I think when you're doing a podcast, I know with our live events it's different. When you're doing the podcast, it's like you're dying to know. It's like you'd love to be able to just say, let's open up now to hear what everybody else has to say. And you can't do that on a podcast. So you sending us through your messages and, you know, replying to some of the posts that we have on these episodes, that makes our absolute day when we hear those stories.
Yes. And obviously the other option is just come and join our online community, the Renegades, anyway, because this is the type of stuff that we're constantly sharing in there.
Oh,
so I'm sure this episode will spark lots of story sharing in the group anyway.
Definitely we'll be tuned in to hear what everybody has to say.
Oh, we will. And on that note, I believe we do have another event very, very soon. Dianne, would you like to share some details on that?
Yes, we do. So on Wednesday, 19th of February, for those of you who remember Ali Skiba. So Ali Skiba was our last podcast that we had for 2023 going into 2024. She's also, you know, showcased on The Voice, but Ali is coming in to do a very, very special channel event with us where it's a voice activation. Now, you might think, oh, what's a voice activation? What it is to heal your relationship with your voice. So if you're, you know, to help you speak your truth, you know, set your boundaries, express your most, you know, authentic version of yourself. And if you think about it, so many of us who go through a spiritual journey, we end up with blocks in our throat chakra. There's so many things, whether it's coming out of the spiritual closet, whether it is just being able to articulate who it is we are and what we do. So I think this will be a really, really powerful activation session for people who choose to join us. So Wednesday, 19th of February, join us with Ali Skiba. And yeah, it'll be a fantastic event. Everything you need will be in the show notes, of course.
Yeah, and that's a virtual session. So no matter where you are in the world, you are definitely able to join us. And yeah, it sounds pretty crazy, this one. I'm not sure what to expect, but I know that Ali is amazing. So.
Oh, and I've done one-on-one sessions with Ali. She is phenomenal. So yeah, I can't wait. So I've done group and one-on-one sessions with her. So yeah, really looking forward to this.
Exciting. Exciting. So for everybody that's been with us today, thank you for tuning in, and we hope you've enjoyed the conversation, and we cannot wait to have you back next time. That's it for another episode. Thank you for listening.
If you're looking for a place to feel at home and want to level up your spiritual game, head to our website, spiritualaf.co, to check out our upcoming online events and for information on how to join our Spiritual Renegades community.
Plus, leave us a 5-star review with an awesome comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we're going to send you a free ticket to one of our Supercharged session events.
Until next time, stay spiritual as fuck.